in 1983, I was born with a syndrome called Cruz, and it's a craniofacial anomaly. At the age of 1, doctors told my parents that I would have to have a reconstructive surgery, and not just one, but many of them throughout my life. So at a young age, I had to choose my destiny. I had to choose my attitude, and I had to choose to have an unconquerable spirit. That no matter how many times I got knocked down, no matter how many times I fell on my face, that as long as I got back up one more time, and as many times as I got knocked down, I'd be okay. At the age of 1, I had that surgery. And the doctors told me, you know what? You're not going to be able to do contact sports. You're going to be very limited on the things that you can do. So that's how my life started. And as a little kid in elementary, all you want to do is run around. It was hard for me to take in. It was hard for me to swallow. But I knew, with the support of my parents, my family, that I could do anything. And I knew the power of choice and the power of defying the odds, creating opportunities. I knew that was possible. When I did start to wrestle, and people were watching me and thinking, oh man, what can this kid do? He looks a little bit different than other people, but he seems to be defying the odds. He seems to be creating his own destiny. He seems to be creating his own opportunities in life, and nothing seems to stop him. I think a lot of times in life, we put a ceiling on ourselves, and we set our own limits. But from a young age, I really decided that, you know what? Our biggest obstacle is ourselves. There's going to be people every day in our lives that say, you can do this or you cannot do this. But we're the only ones that can really tell ourselves or hold ourselves back from the possible or impossible. Because I chose to live my priorities, and because I chose to defy the odds and to follow through with my dreams and my goals, even though many people alongside me said I couldn't, even though there was mocking along the way, I allowed that to fuel me. Fuel the fire.
All right. Thanks so much for letting me show that.
Absolutely. I hope you guys could hear that a little bit. If you guys want to look on YouTube yourself, you can just type in my name, Ben Kjar, Kjar, and it should come up and you should be able to see a few more videos.
And I did include, if you guys look in the chat, I did include that YouTube specific video that I just shared, but then also a link to Ben's YouTube channel. So definitely check out all of his stuff there. So Ben, will you pronounce your last name one more time for me? Because I know I'm going to get it wrong if I say it myself.
Yeah, it's Kjar. It's Kjar, but it's like Care Bear.
Care Bear. So really quick, where's your family from?
We're from Denmark. We're crazy Vikings.
I love it. I love it. Well, this is fantastic. I'm going to quickly introduce Ben Kjar with kind of the bio that he gave me, and then we're just going to jump right in because Ben has a ton of awesome stuff to say. So raised in Centerville, first NCAA wrestling All-American at UVU, traveled all over the world wrestling and placed 4th in the 2012 Olympic trials. He shared his stories to millions about being a victor and not a victim, has spoken in front of crowds of 10,000 plus people, recently adopted 3 beautiful children, and is blessed to be married to his best friend, Lacole. Did I get that right? Perfect.
Yep.
And Lacole and Ben have visited over 30 different countries and love to experience cultures. He has flipped over, I think, 150 properties in the last 6 years. Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool. And above all, Ben loves the Lord and knows all is possible through him. God wants us to be 1.0, not anyone else's 2.0. We are created to be special and unique. We are created to be victors. So what a great start, man. Thanks so much again for joining us today. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, I'm super stoked. I've heard a lot of incredible things about you and what you guys are doing, and I'm just honored to be on here talking with all you guys that are here, and I just hear about the people that you had on last week and the weeks before, and I'm just honored to be here. So thanks for involving me.
Well, no, it's great. And that, again, my whole point of doing these is whatever small Rolodex I have and things that I learned from people, kind of when COVID hit, it was kind of a motivation to me to share in my own little way, whatever I can. And I am way more comfortable sharing by highlighting other people And man, I guarantee I get way more out of this than anyone else on this call. So for me anyway, man, I'm going to keep doing these as long as I can because, man, I'm learning something new every day. So again, one thing that Mike Baird, when he was on the call a few months ago, that stuck with me is whatever we're doing for this meeting for the next hour, you know, not only you, Ben, but for me and everyone else watching or that will watch, I hope we can all take one thing that's like an aha moment or a reminder for us that we can then put into action. And so that may be something for someone's personal life, or it may be a tip or trick for flipping or whatever. So hopefully we're going to talk a little bit about your story, you know, obviously the real estate and things that motivate you and things that can motivate other people. And so from the bio, maybe just catch us up a little bit. There's so much to talk. And Ben, forgive me if I like maybe redirect things as we go along a little bit, but what did I miss in your bio that might be helpful for people? And maybe we could just jump right into it. What was it like growing up as a little kid when you maybe didn't think you were that much different, but it was maybe really apparent that you kind of were a little bit, right? Like talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, you know, when you're younger, you don't put things together the same as when you're a little bit more mature, you're older, and but you start seeing people, and they start looking at you maybe a little bit different. And I'll never forget a few times in public areas. I'll tell you one of them. I was sitting in a grocery market, and I was with my buddy, and his mom kind of incentivized us to come help her shop at the grocery store. And long story short, we're at the checkout line. She said, "You guys can pick up some candy bars for helping us out." And as we're putting stuff on on the table for it to be checked out by the cashier, there's a adult standing in front of us, and he has two kids, and it's a little boy and a little girl. And I remember him looking at me and looking at my friend, and knowing that I looked different than my friend did. And I'll never forget him grabbing the shoulders of his kids and pulling them near him and pointing at me. And the whole line was like backed up. This was way before drone delivery, curbside pickup, and Amazon stuff. And so you had to buy groceries at the grocery store, if you can believe that. And we were sitting there. There's a line of people, and he literally pointed his finger at me, and in front of everyone, told everyone how different I looked, how ugly I was, how he couldn't believe that I had any friends. And then before he left, he grabbed his kids, put them behind him, and said, "But don't touch him, because he's probably contagious, and you don't want that." And so to go home in tears, snot falling out of my nose because I was bawling so bad because I had no control over what he was making fun of me for, was an eye-opening moment for not just me, but for my parents. I remember my mom holding me on the bathroom wall. I locked myself in the bathroom as I ran in. I didn't want anybody to feel my pain because nobody could understand, I felt.
Yeah.
And as my mom held me, she told me, she's like, "Ben, you may look different for the rest of your life. So what are you going to do about it?" And at that moment, she helped me to understand that I could be a victor and not a victim. I could be a baby. I could sit in the corner and cry, or else I could step up and be a champion of my circumstances and perspective. And so at that moment, I started to learn how there was a power in positive self-talk. There's a power in incantations. And people do that differently. And this could be a takeaway for you guys today. How do you do that? When you're down in the dumps, guys, the economy, the crazy stuff happening in today's society it's crazy. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how people are going to approach you because there's so much built up stress from being locked up for a lot of different, coronavirus and all this stuff. I learned the power of perspective, and a lot of people find themselves gaining a new ground, whether it's through a positive self-talk, and that can come through prayer, it can come through scripture, it can come through poetry, it can come through podcasts, it can come through songs, it can come through surrounding yourself with an incredible inner circle. So I know today we're talking about specifically about real estate, but really a lot of people talk, and it may be like a cliche that the real estate between your ears is the most important, but really it is. How can you go out, grind, and believe that you can become somebody or something if you don't freaking believe it here, right? Yeah. If I would have believed the narrative of what that individual in the grocery store was telling me, and I would have drank that in, if I would have swallowed that, and if I would have kept that in and believed it and allowed that to be my narrative, I'll tell you one thing, I wouldn't be here today. Guaranteed, I'd be 6 feet under, and I wouldn't have the story I have to tell.
Man, that is so powerful. How old were you again when that experience happened at the grocery store?
Elementary. I'd probably third or fourth grade. And so it was the understanding of it. Oh my gosh, like maybe I look different. What am I going to do about it? Am I going to wish that I'm Billy and Tommy and Brandon 2.0, or am I going to be okay with being me? Am I going to be okay with being the anomaly? And even though I may look different, am I going to freaking make a difference, right? So there's just a lot that we can believe about what's being said, and then have our own beliefs.
Wow, that is so powerful. And so you were born with Cruzon syndrome. Maybe just tell a little bit about what that does and how that affects your body and what you've needed to do over the years to kind of like, battle that a little bit just from a medical standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's you said it right on. It's Cruzon syndrome. It's like crouton that you put on your salad with a Z, right? And I didn't know how to say it for the longest time. I didn't care. But it was funny. Cruzon syndrome, when you understand it at a very basic level, the mid part of your face doesn't grow at the same speed. So growing up, I had to have numerous reconstructive surgeries. If you look at that video, it kind of tells a little bit about it. But they cut my head open from ear to ear, opened up my head, and basically rearranged a bunch of bones. So at the growth stages, I had those surgeries to keep the mid part of my face growing with the lower jaw, and it affected the way I breathed. It affected the way I ate. I had a massive underbite for many years. When the surgeries would happen, they would wire my jaw shut. If you can imagine, like trying to eat pizza through a straw. One of my favorite things growing up after surgeries was macaroni and cheese through a straw, and understanding what that felt like. And then losing all that weight and then trying to gain it back to get back and try to be quote unquote normal. And isn't it funny that the majority of my life I tried to be normal? Now normal sucks, right? Normal, if you want to be normal, then join the ranks of being robotic and jump in line, right? Now's the time to be abnormal, stick out, and freaking stand out. That's the mentality I've changed into believing, but I didn't believe that my entire life. That changed when I started to understand that God created me to be who I was and how I was, and that and everyone has a story, and the more we open up to what that story is and accept it, we really truly become bulletproof.
I love it. I don't know, maybe this is kind of a weird question, but what would you say today if you could go back in time, or maybe you still encounter this type of attitude, but what would you say to that father that was in line with you, with his kid, as your current self? What would you say to him? What do you say to people that you maybe hear, whether it's, these days racial prejudice or, in your situation, what would you say to that person?
Tell you what, I can make up something really funny and sounds good, and it makes me kind of sound like the best guy in the world. I'm just going to invite you guys to jump on YouTube. And you said in the beginning that I just adopted 3 kids. It's true. I just adopted 3 kids. They're all under 19 months. I've never changed so many freaking diapers in my life. I'm like a diaper changing ninja, right? It's crazy, but it's a huge blessing. My family didn't know And so about any of the adoptions, and we surprised them, we filmed it and we put it on YouTube, and it kind of went viral to, I think, probably over 50 million people through social media and YouTube. But on a few YouTube videos, you'll see what people say. And on many of them, I did respond. So I'm going to invite you guys to go on YouTube and see how I responded, because it's funny how when, let's say I were in that grocery store, and if I would have responded in any way victim or negative, or if I would have screamed back, guess how many people would have been okay and supported me in my antics? Probably a lot of them, right? A lot of them would have probably been, it's okay, like he fired at you and you fire back. But isn't it incredible that if we don't fire back an eye for an eye, how things can change? Go on YouTube, see how people in front of millions of people, see how many people said certain things, even though it was about an adoption surprise, how they said things about me, and how I was able to react. Now, don't get this wrong. I'm like a trained warrior. I freaking wrestled for 30 plus years. I could slice these ninjas up in half pretty quick. My hands have been trained to be weapons for a long time. Is it normal to get upset, angry, and want to fight back and freaking knock out the dude with a headbutt? Yeah. Absolutely, it's normal. Do I get angry when people call me out? Heck yeah, I get angry. But the moment between reacting in anger and finding a way to become a victor in the situation and not just a victim is where that moment lies. And that's how we really set out to become legendary. The moment from initial anger, from whatever happens, and then the moment of decision. And if we can control that, whatever you want to be, call it 5 minutes or 5 seconds of reaction. If we can learn how to become a victor in that situation and not always a victim and reacting, natural reacting, we can control decades of consequences in those moments. You guys seeing the society, you're seeing what's going on in the world today. It's an eye for an eye.
Yeah, it is.
People are getting in different situations because of it.
I think that's amazing advice. That is really awesome. So I'm getting a little feedback there. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, cool. Well, man, we could talk about all these little things forever, which I'd totally love to. We're just going to keep kind of going. And then Andrew Coates posted a link to kind of clarify. I think you got that right, Andy, the YouTube. And then just explore Ben's YouTube channel. There's so many cool stuff on there. And then again, it's in the chat. So, all right, let's talk a little bit. We're going to build up a little bit to like how you got into real estate. And then maybe the last half hour, we can kind of go back and forth about some real estate stuff. But so, I mean, it sounds like you kind of developed this mindset and this momentum of confidence building and that mindset of being the victor. I mean, and then so does that kind of help you get into wrestling? I mean, wrestling was a huge part of your life and probably the fundamentals you learned to kind of help you succeed in business as well. But what was, I mean, you could probably talk for hours about this, but what major lessons did you learn coming out of wrestling and what that did to you being, you know, a littler guy just in general without even kind of some of the health problems you had. But what was that experience like?
Yeah, so doctors told me when I was young that like you probably won't be able to do contact sports. If you can imagine going through numerous reconstructive facial surgeries, you're all swollen. I remember sneezing and all of a sudden like my eye would fill up with blood. Like that type of recovery is probably not conducive to football or wrestling. But my parents and the people I surrounded myself with wasn't okay with that. And that's a takeaway you guys can have today, right? Who's in your family? Who's in your tribe? Who's in your center, inner circle? If they're okay with you living a lower life, if they're okay with you living in a padded room and a padded walls, then you're going to be okay with that. Like upgrade
Yeah.
a little bit, right? You don't have to divorce all your friends and your family. I'm not saying that at all, but attract and attract the people that are going to make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. If you're the smartest person in the room all the time, you're in the freaking wrong room, right? You're in the wrong room. And so be around the people that make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. I felt it just recently, right? I was in a room. I'm like, I am probably the most idiotic person in this room. Right? And it was probably very much so that, dude. And that was a good room to be in. So how did I get into wrestling? I remember my mom and just didn't allow me to sit out. I'll remember one story. I'll make it quick. I was in the hospital. I had a PICC line in my arm, and it was football season. If you ask me what my favorite sport was growing up, it was the sport that I was playing. But I was playing football, and I had a PICC line, and I just came out of some surgery. A PICC line is where you put a line in your arm and it feeds into your heart, and the medicine that you put in that line pumps throughout your whole system through your heart, right? Long story short, I remember she came in the hospital. I was in the bed. The doctors had just come in. They said, hey, you're going to have lunch soon, but we'll be back. My mom comes walking in. She's like, Ben, get out of bed. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, get out of bed. We got to go. I'm like, this lady is freaking off her rocker. She's like, get out of bed. I'm like, Mom, I'm connected to this big pole. Like, I'm hooked up. She comes over, unscrews the freaking PICC line, and says, get in this wheelchair. I'm like, this lady's crazy, and I freaking love it. Puts me in the wheelchair, and she goes like zooming out down the hall, like fire blazing, I swear, off these wheels, how fast she's going. She takes me down to the car, and she opens the door, and there's my football pads.
Wow.
She's like, football pictures are today, and you're not going to miss. And I'll never forget that picture because I have a big splint on my arm, and my mom didn't let me relax. She didn't put me in that padded room, and it's never stopped. And that's allowed me to do whatever I felt like I wanted to do.
That is awesome. That nurse is still looking for you.
Yeah, the doctors are too, man.
So I'm guessing that support is still there today. Do they push you in different ways today now that you've gained so many capabilities and confidences in all other areas? But are your parents, that circle, still kind of pushing you outside of your comfort zone a little bit and giving you positive feedback along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. My parents are so supportive, and one of the most supportive people I'm with 100% of the time almost is my wife. And every day I fight the victim mentality as we all do. And it's funny, like it totally pisses me off sometimes. But my wife's like, stop being a freaking victim, Ben. Like, stop being a baby, right? And that's the key word for me to realize that I'm being a sissy, and I should put my big boy pants on and be a victor. And there's a lot of friends that I have. There's people on this call that have been those people in my life. And I think we choose who we surround ourselves with. And those are the people that allow me to still become what I'm still striving to become.
I love it. My midpoint takeaway right now is as I've heard you and listened to your videos about being the victor, not the victim, sometimes I think about that as like some huge momentous, like, you know, you're up on the podium getting your medals for wrestling, right? Or it's like getting to the top of this huge mountain. But the reality is sometimes it's those small little victories, like maybe your wife's reminding you about, like, I don't know what it is, but I'm guessing it's maybe like, oh, I don't need to take out the garbage, like something stupid, right? Or maybe it's just even the way that you answer the phone, or you know you're going to have a challenging conversation with somebody, and it's being the victor in those moments. It doesn't always have to be some grand, huge, like, you know, once in a lifetime life experience. But I think what we're seeing from your story and where you're going to be headed is it's the compounding of a bunch of these small little victories and big ones along the way that end up producing massive, massive results, So I love that mentality.
You're exactly right. And just remember that quantity is quality. You're talking about, and you just alluded to, it's not just always, this is a quality, momentous victory. Yeah, those will come, but it's the quantity, it's the consistency along the way that allows us the quality. Remember that repetition is the mother of skill. Repeating things over and over again allows us to have skill. Let's do a takeaway. Tomorrow morning, do you have a morning routine?
Yeah.
Do you wake up or do you push snooze? In those first moments of the day, how are you going to start that off? And it's not that we can't ever push snooze. That's not the key. It's, do we consistently have that behavior all the time? Or if we want to change, then we won't deserve that change until we've done the work, right? And so how do we deserve that change? We put in the work. And how do we make a change? You make a change in your life. You can't be the change if you're not making the change, right?
Yeah.
So making the changes, making some big differences in your life and being consistent with them.
I love it. Okay, so after college, how did you, we're going to kind of skip a little bit, and then I'm sure we'll come back to some of this stuff, but career-wise, business-wise, making a living, right? Making $1. How did your path get maybe 6 or 7 years ago to getting interested in real estate? What kind of things did you do before, or what kind of got you down the path of ultimately getting into real estate?
That's a great question, and I'll try to sum this up as quick as I can. Out of college, I loved my time there. I went to Utah Valley University after transferring from Oklahoma, and loved my time there. I had some great teachers, graduated in entrepreneurship, emphasizing that. And even though I went to school under entrepreneurship emphasis, I still was taught how to work for other people.
Yeah.
And that's fine. If you like school, it taught me a lot of incredible things, how to stick to it and stuff like that. Well, I jumped into a family business. And July 1st, 2014, was brought down by my brother and my dad into their office and was told that day would be my last day. No severance, no bonus, no nothing. Luckily, my wife was working, and we had a home where we rented out our basement, so we could afford the mortgage for the time. And I was sick and tired of watching people on TV do flips. And I talked with one of my mentors, who was one of the first CEOs of Einstein Bagels. And he said, Ben, what do you do in your time when you are off task? And I, in my mind, was just like prideful. And I'm like, what are you talking about off task? I'm never off task, which was an absolute lie. And then I started thinking deeply, what do I do? And then I would go back to the times that I would be off task. Well, at nighttime, me and my wife would pillow talk, and then we'd go to sleep. And then I'd turn over on my pillow, and on my phone I would bring up the MLS, and I would be searching the MLS for homes that I think I would like to flip, how they would look different. And I literally jumped into it. Luckily, I was able to do a seller finance. I paid a guy to teach me how to do seller's finance, and I did that on my first flip in 2014. It took me 6 months to finish a 1,400 square foot home, and I was really lucky, and I made $41,000 my first flip, and that was a ton of money for me in 6 months. It was a ton of money. And I turned into my next flip, and I just, sky's the limit. I invested in a ton of people and a ton of education. And since then, we've been exponentially growing and been able to do, over 150, 160 flips in the last 6 years, and have been able to build a little bit of a rental portfolio. But if you're thinking about doing this game of real estate, it really is a game. You just need to know how to play it. I would invest in one thing first and foremost. Invest in yourself. A lot of people want to invest in real estate, and that's it. They want real estate. Let's do it. I would invest in yourself first. Invest in this first. And that will give you a lifetime membership of that knowledge that you gain. Secondly, invest in those around you. And when I say that, I'm not saying necessarily give them money, even though mentoring is huge. I highly recommend paying someone to teach you to do this stuff because they will have skin in the game to help you out. What I'm saying is invest in your relationships. Invest in communicating. Invest in not eating a meal alone, right? One person that's really good at that is on this call is Andrew Coates, right? Andy Coates calls me all the time. When are we going to lunch? When are we going to lunch? And he's really good at that. He's great at networking. He's a great person. Matt, I've seen you do that. I've seen you and people, surround themselves with you, and I've heard nothing but great things about your reputation because you have invested in people, and your reputation precedes yourself.
Well, no, I appreciate that. Thank you. And it reminded me of last week's call. I had Casey Ames on. If you guys didn't listen to that, definitely pick up the YouTube channel and listen to that. But I'm guessing when you talk a little bit more about your tactical part of real estate, you're going to have overlap a little bit with Casey's mindset about systems and processes and stuff. But the one thing that I got out of that call is he does seem to invest pretty heavily in his team and those around him, and the people that work for him and setting them up for future success, knowing that he may be helping them actually, get out of the position of actually working for Casey, right? But it's helping him and his empire as it builds, but it's also building other people up, helping them develop their skills and capabilities. So I think that's huge. And so you got into this game, and so you just dove right in. You started flipping, and then what does your business look like today? Is it 100% like when we talk just about real estate, or you have some rentals, but you're actively flipping, and it seems that you kind of have kind of elevated yourself to just kind of like you're really comfortable in the East Side, higher end, pretty major remodel type projects, right?
I never feel comfortable. I'm going to tell you that right now, man. There's some days I just get up and I'm freaking scared. I'm serious. And I think it's important to say that because a lot of people may put a mask over their face and say, I got this. Like, have you seen these biceps? Like, come on, right?
Yeah.
I think it's super important to get freaking scared and push yourself and step in an area that maybe you've never been in, because then you've been there. Yeah. And I'm not saying do that with all the time putting other people's money at risk and then putting your own money at risk. I'm saying do it, be scared, but calculate it. Calculate it. Know that the comps are there. Know that worst case scenario, if you freaking die or get hit by a car, the people who are loaning you money is going to be okay, right? And I say that very freely. Calculate your risks. Don't expect to step in a deal when you feel 100% confident. Freaking forget about it. Yeah. There's going to be risk at every level. But yes, I've been able to do deals that like recently, I just did a deal on 1000 East. It's under contract where we literally took off the top level. It was burnt. We built another level and we dug out the basement.
Is that the one on Yale?
No, that's a different one, but we did that one in the basement too. And we just got a contract on that over the weekend. And we have some really good numbers on that one. We have great numbers on both of these. It's a huge blessing. But have I ever done that type of deal before? Never. I'd never done that type of deal before. I was freaking scared. Did it take longer? It was a burnt house. I dug out the basement and I added another level. No, I'd never done it. But now I can say I've done it. So how do you start feeling a little bit more comfortable? You do it.
Yeah.
And you surround yourself by people who have done it, right? If you haven't done these deals, partner up with someone who's done it. The great thing about flips in real estate, you go deal at a time. You're not tying people in for lifetime. You're not signing an LLC partnership or corporation for 5 years. You may be dealing with these guys for 5 weeks or 5 months. And then guess what? If they're not your type of person, you don't even have to fire them.
Yeah.
You just don't do another deal with them.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think we think, sometimes I think our fears win us. They beat us because they're really bigger than what, I mean, we give them more credit than what they really should be given credit for. Like we put fear on such a pedestal that it just suffocates us and collapses us. So yeah, the bread and butter of what I've kind of been able to do is right above the jumbo loan to about $1 million, $1.2 million. I'm getting into some homes though that are below jumbo loan that I feel really comfortable in because there's a lot more people that can qualify for that. So I'm kind of turning, as the economy is kind of interesting, I'm kind of turning some perspective and focus in that area.
Well, if we can take a brief pause here, I'm going to share my screen because this is truly art. I got some of your let me just share this really quick. I downloaded some of your photos. Check this out, guys. This is Ben's house on Yale. These are just some of the photos, and I mean, I just love this. I'm just kind of randomly showing this for no other reason than I downloaded it. It's like I could look at this all day long, right? So this is some of the quality that you're putting out of some of your flips. Look at the detail that you are using on here. And as we kind of look at these, maybe talk a little bit for those that are struggling to maybe put together, even just on a smaller level, something like this. But what was your process on this to kind of come up with this design? I mean, look at this. This is just beautiful. You know, I would pay to just have a picture of this. But what's kind of your design process? Like just some of the tactical part about how did you go about, you know, executing on this? Who was involved? Did you get a designer involved? Just those kind of things.
That's a great question. I didn't get a designer involved. Now, the inner woman inside of me was hired on this job, and that's what happened. I'm really blessed to be able to have that inner woman that knows how to design. So I was able to design it, but I'm best idea wins. So if you look at this picture right now that you're pointing at, this is where we gain value. Go back to the other one. Can you go back to the other one? If you can go back where it showed the basement, I'll tell you guys how we found massive profits in this specific home. Let
me go back. This one, right?
No, to the basement.
I think this one with the beam. Maybe it's a little slow getting to you.
Yeah, the one with the beam is how we found. Yep, exactly. So if you see that back part of the house, or the furthest part of this picture, which is the front of the house, where the couch is, it's a yellow couch. That was completely dirt up to where the top of that picture is. If you know the Yale Harvard area, you're getting $300 to $400 per square foot. This ceiling of what you're looking at right now was 6 feet tall.
Wow.
And the side walls, they're called shelf foundations. That was 4 feet in. That is now 18 inches in because we had to redo the foundation. We didn't have to, we chose to. And so we dug down the basement 3 feet, so 6 feet. Now it's 9 feet, and then we built it back up to 8 feet. That's an 8-foot basement, which is completely usable. 2 bedrooms down there, 1 full bath. and that back part, as I told you, was completely dug out. That back part alone, which isn't that big, maybe 10 by 12, paid for that entire basement based on ratio of square footage added to cost of the basement dig out. What we also did is, you can see there's a steel beam there. The code asks for wood beams. I was able to negotiate with my guy, overbuilt it, so anybody at that level wanting to buy a $1.2 million home knows that they want the very best. Well, we overbuilt it. And so they can have their own engineer come in and realize, oh my gosh, these guys overdid it. They didn't have to, but they did. It cost me maybe, a couple grand more worth of money.
But that's a quick, that's a quick reminder of, one, you not only did the quality, but you highlighted it in such a simple way where it just mentally probably helped everybody overcome any fear they had about, oh man, this is a really expensive home. It's like, I love that, because not only did it in an analogy or like a mental, but you wowed them with this, and it kind of substantiated everything else that went on in the house. And it was a very, very simple, subtle, yet powerful feature. That's really cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And then I'll give one more note of value here. If you go to the first picture that you showed, that was of the kitchen. And that kitchen was the master bedroom, done by the former general contractor. We bought this where everything was everything was insulated in and ready for sheetrock. Now, people would have thought I was absolutely crazy to not just sheetrock it and go forward. I would have saved tons of money. But the end vision is what I invested in. And that's what we got. Instead of walking into the master bedroom, which linked into the next picture that you showed, which with the beams and the fireplace, we now, exactly, those are joints. So that is now your great room joint with your kitchen, where before it was a great room, not so great, right into the master bedroom. And we kept the light, we made that front window big, we kept the light flowing through to the back big windows, which we added in. Any home that you go into of mine is going to be very filled with natural light. Their utility bills are going to be way low because they won't need to turn on their lights hardly ever. But they're going to get value. It's going to be a custom, modern farmhouse type of look. And did it cost more? Absolutely. But did the investment pay off? Yes. Was I scared to do it partially? Yes. Was it calculated? I would like to think so.
Well, and what you just said there, the end vision is what you're going for along the way, right? And so if you don't have that vision to start with, you're going to get lost along the way, and it's going to end up looking pretty lousy and not flowing with the value that it needs to. So I'm gonna stop sharing here in just a second, but I want to. This is by far my favorite photo of this, is incorporating the back garage with the white, the copper, the wood trim. I mean, you did it all on this one. So if you don't mind, you don't have to get specific if you don't want to, but what are the quick numbers on this one? Everyone's always curious about numbers. What did you buy it for? What was your rough rehab? And then, what is your rough ARV that you might close at?
It's under contract right now, so it depends on if the buyer's on the phone call right now.
Oh, you don't have to. I totally get it. Or you can use a different one as an example. But like in general, that level of rehab, what are you typically spending? Say that was like, what was it, 2,500 square feet? I know he popped up in my purview. Troy's on the call. He's got an awesome house he's closing on next week in Holiday that if he pulled off something like this, his value is going to go through the roof. So what's kind of your budget for one of these higher end flips?
Yeah, for these higher end flips, I like to be at least minimum $200,000 in gross margin difference.
Got it.
if you're buying at 500, you're selling at 700. That's gross margin. I mean, everything in the middle there is, you know, your rehab, your materials and stuff like that. This one's better than that. And I would love to jump on the call with you, Matt, at the end of September and tell you the exact details of this one.
I hear you. I hear you.
That flip actually is the best flip financially that I've ever done. If we actually close at the number we did, and we found a win-win situation between the buyer and myself, and it's a cash offer, and they'll be closing, I mean, in less than 3 weeks. And if you're closing in less than 3 weeks at near a $1.2 million home, you better believe we're going to come to an agreement. And so that's an incredibly good flip for us financially. And I'm really, really grateful to my team and blessed for them to be patient along the way on that one.
No, that's great. And fair enough. Yeah, fair enough on the, but the point is you didn't create that massive value without really thinking through it, you know, modifying the layout, going all in on your top to bottom design. And I love the way you did the basement. I mean, you added tremendous value there that a lot of people would have probably just passed on by. So, all right, we got about 12 minutes left. If anybody has any specific questions for Ben, drop them in the chat. I have a couple of other kind of follow-up overall questions about real estate and life as we kind of wrap up here, because I don't know how I'm going to explain this, but after flipping myself for a long, long time and watching other people flip, I think that saying, and I'm going to get it probably wrong, is how you do one thing, you do everything, right? There's a saying that goes something like that, right? But I think you can see the results of someone's life and habits and discipline almost in how their flips turn out, right? Like, and that's not being super judgy, but I think, you know, it goes to show the mindset you have of thinking through with like the end in mind. How do I want this home to look? What do I need to do to get there? Obviously doing the analysis to make sure it financially makes sense. But when you see that end result, I would bet the people that worked on the house were paid promptly, right? They were given feedback when needed. You weren't, you know, trying to get the absolute best deal from everybody, so they're never going to work for you again. And I think that it's kind of like in life. I think all those little choices and all those little plannings got you what you had at the end, which is an awesome remodeled house. But it doesn't get there without all of that planning and just your life in general, right? How you do one thing is how you do everything. I don't know if you'd agree with that, but I see people that maybe, you know, kind of put out really crappy flips, and it's kind of like, well, it's no wonder I can't ever get you on the phone, and you're not sending me the info I need for the loan or whatever, right? It's, and then I know my bars, I'm going to just highlight Troy again because he's on the call. It's like, when I need something, it's like in my email, it's detailed, it's how I want it. And so it's like, it's almost a better credit score rating for me, is like how you do the little things. It's like, all right, you're good then, man. Well, we'll get you the money, get you lined up. Right. So I don't know if that, you know, resonates with you in any way, but that's just my observation, kind of in life and in general, especially with real estate.
I think you're exactly right. I think you're right on point. And to throw a little bit different perspective on that as well, is that I suck at so many things. My goal sometimes is just to suck a little bit less every day. Honestly. And I think we get to remember that too. And man, I got to have you come to my funeral because you paint me to be like everything in my life is detailed. Guys, I am a mess in so many things, but we get to realize that life is never perfect. I got 3 kids running around all the time, and my goal is just to make sure that I do everything I can to treat people correct, right, and that they know that I'm doing my very best to be genuine and sincere and be direct with them. And I just care a lot about my reputation. I'm not saying if someone doesn't like me, I spend all my energy on that. Not at all. Sometimes you just like, I can't control what you do. I mean, you got to let it go. But you can control what you can control. And what I can control is knowing that when someone walks in my house, they're like, dang, he did this house as if he would move and live in it. And that's exactly right. Every single home, I don't care if it's a condo, mobile home, or in between, I will move in and I will live there.
Yeah.
And I'll be proud of it and I'll back it. Now, is it messy getting to there? Oh, freak. It's messy. And I lost tons of money on that deal on certain things that we could have done way better. I've never put out on the market a perfect house. Never. 0 homes out of 160 something homes I flipped. Never put out a perfect house. That's one interesting thing to realize. We will never be perfect, right? We will never have the opportunity to have a perfect day, but the goal is to get better every day.
Yeah.
Keep driving, keep moving, keep pushing every day. If you would have seen my flips, Matt, 2 or 3 years ago, they're totally different than what they are today. Totally different. Yeah. The home I live in right now, I've lived here for 4 years, I renovated. It's totally different quality than what I have today. Now, is that embarrassing? No, it's not embarrassing. It allows me to realize where I've come from and then where I'm going. So here's the most important thing. Matt, you're absolutely right. What you do, like, leaks across your whole lifestyle, right? And how do you do one thing is a lot of times how you do everything. It's true in a lot of ways. But if you're not great and you kind of suck at certain things, just keep pushing.
Yeah.
And be a little bit less sucky every day. And it's less intimidating to say it that way. It doesn't seem motivational, inspirational, but it's real. And as we keep getting better, little by little, that quantity becomes consistency and that becomes quality. So 3 years ago, I couldn't have done what I did today. But guess what? I just suck a little bit less.
Yeah.
Now I'm jumping to the next level of what we're going to do. And that's exciting to me.
That's awesome. Well, and it's really kind of comforting to hear, you know, you say it. And when I hear other people say it, and you mentioned it before in the call, like there's even moments today, every day, where you battle being the victim, not the victor, right? Where you battle, you know, if you're going to suck a little less or suck even more today. But I think that's the reality. And I don't know if it's human nature. Like when I hear you say that, I'm like, oh gosh, then it's okay when I'm like tired at the gym and I'm thinking, man, I might cut 1 rep here. You know, no one's looking or whatever. And it's like, wait, no. I don't, you know, I'm just going to do it. But like those moments creep in, I think, for everybody, no matter how awesome you think someone is or the, you know, how top of the game they are, everybody has those moments of weakness. And, I mean, that's why we're doing this. That's why we're talking about all this stuff is you do need a little boost from your friends. Right. And so I know we're all getting that on this call, and there's many ways where you can do that through personal development and all those things you talked about. Out of respect for people that are on this call, I want to just answer a couple questions, or have you answer a couple questions that they asked really quick. How many, Troy Rawlings, how many houses are you flipping at any one time?
You know what? I've tried to come down a little bit, but at one time I've been over 30 plus homes. About a year ago, I was doing 30 plus homes all over the country. And I don't recommend that. It's partly psychotic. I realized I sucked at a lot of things at that point. And I just dialed in and made things a little more basic and allowed me to do a little bit less than that now. So I recommend you jumping into something that you feel like you can swallow and be successful at.
I love it. And Gay, yes, everybody has been recommended many times to go watch on his YouTube the story of the babies, part 1 and 2 on the YouTube. So everybody, is another reminder, check out Ben's YouTube channel. It's money. It is so great. Okay, my man, we got about 5 minutes left. We've covered a lot. We could drill down into a ton more detail on a lot of this stuff. But I think for anyone out there in real estate or whatever you're struggling with, I think hopefully we've all found an answer. And for me, again, to repeat kind of my take action is to just remember that the victory doesn't always have to be some grand big one. You know, it might just be that victory of sticking to your diet for the day, waking up saying today's going to be an awesome day, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a grand one, but hopefully that'll create a bunch of small little wins will create a huge win at the end of the day. Why don't you end with whatever you want to end with? kind of is to kind of a wrap up. And man, we could talk for hours about this. So I really appreciate it. And then everyone check Ben's flips out. I'm going to continue to track him and follow him on my high end flips and copy what he's doing. So I hope you're okay with that. I mean, what's working, you know, why not still a little bit and get better yourself. Right. So, all right, Ben, end us off here. Get a couple minutes. Give us a final send off for today's call.
Absolutely. Focus on what you believe you can be the best in the world at. I was reading the book Good to Great, and it talked about finding something that you believe you can become the best in the world at. Now, do I think I can be the best in the world at flipping houses? We're doing something very strategic in the next year that is allowing me to be the very, very best in the world at that one thing with a niche that's included. So I'm really excited about that. And then I want to end with this. Find what you guys need in the moments that are the toughest. Because when you can become a victor in the darkest moments, when you can choose to be a victor and not a victim in the darkest moments, you will cement what people know about you and remember you for. And what I say to myself in those moments to be able to allow me to choose into being a victor and not a victim is positive self-talk put together by incredible people, one of them being Tony Robbins, if you know Anthony Robbins, well known. And I want to say it, just to depart, I want to say it, and this is what I literally tell myself, is that I am a force for good. I am the voice. I will lead, not follow. I will believe, not doubt. I am a force for good. I am a leader. I will defy the odds. I will set a new standard. And I will step up. I will step up. And I will step up. And I will say that again and again. I am the voice. I am the voice. I will lead, not follow. I will believe, not doubt. I will create, not destroy. I am a force for good. I am a leader. Defy the odds. Set a new standard. Step up. Step up. Step up. And if you find those moments of darkness, of hard times, and you can say something to yourself that's a positive self-talk, it's a scripture, it's a prayer, it's whatever it is to allow you to get a little emotional, allow you to have the hair stand off your arms, then you will allow yourself to have that emotional change, that physical change to get you in the right direction to become a victor and not a victim. And that's what I'll leave with you. In the moments of where you think you can't do something, you can do it, and you can do it in a big way. And that's what we're meant for. We're meant to be big. We're meant to be legendary, and we're meant to make a difference.
I don't even know if I have words to end this. That was so awesome. Say yes. Ben, we are so glad you were born and that you care. And thanks for joining us. And we'll catch you offline and keep crushing it. Thanks so much, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Be in touch.